So this video lecture is about trends in the book industry, and there are many trends. So one of the trends is convergence, obviously. This comes in several forms. One is e-publishing. So now we have a lot of books that are done digitally, that are done online. You can read them online. You're probably not doing that. You're probably reading them through e-readers or smartphones or tablets, your Kindle Fire, whatever, those types of things. And in fact, this Sony e-reader that I have a picture of here is pretty old school at this point. So, but many of us are now reading our books, not in hard copies, but through some sort of, electronic device. There's also another way convergence comes into play, which is printing on demand. So you may really still like to read print, hard copy books. But one of the problems with the old way that this was done is that a publisher would commit to making a certain number of books, maybe 300,000, for example. They'd do a run. If those weren't all purchased, you had all these leftover books. And I don't know if you remember when Borders was around, or I don't know if Barnes and Noble does this. They probably do. But like you'd walk through the door of Borders, and there'd be all these books for sale really inexpensively, $2, $3, and those were probably remainders. They were books that did not sell at their normal price and were left over and could get just thrown away, or they could try to sell them for really inexpensive. Print on demand really changes the equation for that, because you can still get your hard copy book, but they print it once you order it and pay for it. So there's no waste, and that saves a lot of money in a lot of respects. And this has really gotten so big that now we have this espresso book machine that you can go, put in your little order and have the book printed right in front of you. I've uploaded a separate video on that so you can get a better sense of what that does. But it's really, all of this stuff, fundamentally changes the book industry from what it used to be, really advances it. Another trend is conglomeration. Obviously, these two trends are trends that are impacting every branch of the media, as we're going to find out. Conglomeration totally has touched the book industry. It used to be that book publishers were these sort of small, organizations, businesses that would find an author that they wanted to publish, and they would work with that author to sort of lovingly bring that book along to publication. They'd edit the work. It was much more low scale, on a lower scale. Now, book publishers are these really enormous entities. Not all of them, but the ones that are producing most of the books that we read or we purchase are big corporate book publishers. And that has good and bad. They have more money behind them to promote a book. In theory, they have more money where they can take risks on new, untried authors. I don't really think they take the risks that they should, and that's the downside. A lot of people feel that they don't. They go for the big money earners, the Stephen Kings or book publishers like that, where they know they'll make a lot of money. Okay, another related trend, and our street cleaners are going by, so this might be a little hard for you to hear for a minute. I'm going to try to speak more loudly, or just wait a second. We'll just wait, shall we? Because they're going right by my door. Bye-bye. Okay, so demand for profits and hyper-commercialism. What this means is, again, they're going to go for those blockbuster writers, the ones like Stephen King, who are going to sell a lot of books and might even lead to movie contracts. And then that leads us to subsidiary rights, because if they get a book that they can sell and make a film out of, and all of the things that might come along with that, they're going to make additional profit. Another type of trend are these instant books. You might wonder, sometimes a major event will happen like 9/11, and the next day there's a book out, or in a couple of days there's a book out about it. So instant books are another sort of trend that kind of allows them to prepare a book with an idea that they can bring it to publication very quickly and capitalize on a current event. And classic hyper-commercialism, prior to now, I'm going to turn off my ringer here, prior to now, to recent times, you did not see advertising in books or product placement in books. We're going to have a chance, I hope, to talk about that more in class. But now you'll actually have authors being paid to mention products in their books. I'm not saying every book does this, but it's become more and more popular, and you can weigh in on it. I personally hate it, but I've heard students make a case for it in some cases. Okay, so another trend, growth of small presses. I've already said that we have conglomerate publishing houses now that publish most of the books that we buy, but there's also a growth of small presses. There's something like 70,000 small presses in the United States, and this changes every time our book updates its edition, but suffice it to say tens of thousands of small presses. But they will typically produce no more than 4 titles a year. So these small presses tend to be really specialized, and they're not producing the big number, the big blockbuster hits that we're reading. So that's on the publishing side of things, but there's also been a lot of changes with book retailing. At first, it was a threat to, sort of conglomerate publishing was kind of a threat to independent bookstores. So in terms of book retailing or book selling, we used to have Borders, and we'd have Barnes & Noble and Crown Books and things like that, and they really ate up a lot of sales for independent bookstores and caused a lot of bookstores to close, independent bookstores to close. And then now we have convergence, so you can see all of these trends are kind of crossing over. Now we have convergence, so we have Amazon, and we have all these online publications, and now they're threatening the corporate bookstores. The bookstores that threatened to close down independent bookstores are now being threatened themselves by entities like Amazon. So Borders didn't respond fast enough to the whole e-publishing trend, and they didn't get an e-reader out fast enough. Barnes & Noble did, although Barnes & Noble is also struggling with their e-reader. Kindle tends to be the one that's done really well, along with iPads and other tablets. But Borders didn't get on top of that fast enough, in addition to other problems they were having, and then they shut down. So, okay, I'm going to go back here. So those are the trends, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk more about all of those in class.